Look, I get it. You want to make indie games, but you feel like the only way to make money is to create some viral game like Minecraft. But the truth is, if you want to make money, there are 3 cheat codes that will help you create a solid game that provides income for you and your family. Let's talk about them. K North says, I get tripped up heavily in the feeling that I'm always working on concepts that just will not stand out. I've really been thinking about the Trinity hook lately. So K North is talking about my proprietary Trinity hook. And the Trinity hook is simply, hey, your game needs to stand out, it needs to be special, so think about your visual, your mechanical, and your story hook. That's the Trinity hook. Does every great game have all 3? No. But we're not gonna have all of our eggs in one basket. So we're gonna try and diversify our hook so that maybe one is actually a hook. There's your problem, Kyle. You're trying to think, I need the best singular hook. Most people don't know if a hook is a hook. And so what I say is have 3, visual, story, and mechanical, and hopefully one is actually a hook. It's basically like putting a 6 on 3 sides of a die so that when you roll it, at least you land on 1, right? The same is true with your Trinity hook, okay? So that's gonna help you. You're quitting your prototype because your hook is actually kind of sucky. Well, have 3. So spend the time trying to come up with 3 hooks if you can. And you don't have to be a genius artist to have a good visual hook. Frankly, you just need some good understanding of color theory. I think color theory helps a lot. What is an example of a story hook? I can think of a setting hook, but a little confused on what a story hook would be. The best kinds of story hooks create contrast. I don't know what it is about human beings, but they love contrast. They love a yin and yang. The most famous man on earth. Who's the most famous man to have ever lived? Elon Musk, yeah? You think he's more famous than Jesus? Probably not. Who knows Jesus' story hook? I'm not saying that you have to believe all this. I do. But what's the story hook for Jesus' story? And this is frankly, I think, why it's stuck. Think of the contrast. Fully man and fully God. Man but God. God but man. Contrast. Contrast is everything. So what is the story hook of Luke Skywalker? What is the story hook of Harry Potter? Guys, it's so freaking obvious. What's the story hook of Frodo freaking Baggins? Think of contrast. What's the story hook of Luke Skywalker? What's the character hook? He's a boy just like us, but he's a Jedi. Harry Potter, poor orphan child, but he's a world famous wizard. Contrast is everything. All right, before we talk about cheat code number 2, if you're like me and you always dreamt of making an indie game as a full-time job, I have a free webinar below that goes into exactly how to make 6 figures with just a demo. I was just like you for years. I thought I had to make a game in its entirety before getting a paycheck, but there's actually 3 ways to make 6 figures before even finishing your game. I've done this multiple times, so check it out below if you do want to go full-time indie. Otherwise, let's continue. When starting out for the first time publishing my video game, how do I promote my video game to an audience? Well, do you want an audience for your game or an audience for you? That's the first question I want to ask you. If you're thinking, I need to build my audience, well, for what? For you or your game? That's a really good question. Before you start posting content, you need to be thinking about that. I'll give you a little hint. You or your brand, not the game. Why would we do that? I'm gonna spend 4 years trying to sell this can. Why on earth would I spend 4 years trying to sell this can of Zevia, and then once it's consumed and there's nothing left, I can't sell anything anymore? What you want to do is you want to build a brand, and here's the cool thing. You can build the brand, and this is true for anything, guys. So like if you're building a YouTube presence or you're building an online platform, like my platform, Full-Time Game Dev, I'm really passionate about it. I'm building this platform, but I'm also building my games, Twisted Tower, and my studio, Atmos Games. When I'm building this stuff, I'm building a brand that builds trust and an audience that will stick around for any product that those brands create. So instead of just building an audience for a product, you build an audience for a brand, and then you can sell multiple products and then ultimately sell the brand. That's really how you want to be thinking about it. So it's totally fine if you want to make a social media presence for your game. If you want to do that, more power to you, and I've seen people do it. I personally want to build a brand, and it can be centered around you so that that audience sticks around. There's no greater leverage, frankly. In my opinion, there's no greater leverage than having an audience. If you have an audience, sky's the limit. As long as that audience is targeted towards a specific type of products, sky's the limit. Golden Apple says, without an audience, selling anything will be much more difficult. Certainly true. But Thomas, a lot of game developers didn't have an audience, and they're multimillionaires. Their game blew up. Yeah, and they had brilliant, genius game ideas. Most of us don't have that. I'm a big fan of normal people being able to be digital entrepreneurs. I want normal people to be able to build an audience and make money with that audience. I want you, if you feel like you're not very talented and you're not a genius, I still want you to be able to make games. That's not fair. You have to be a genius to stand out as an indie. Well, what if I told you, hey, you can actually just slowly build your audience over time and be able to make a full-time income from games? Whether it's with an audience, with a publisher, investment, crowdfunding, Patreon, YouTube ads, sponsorships, there's just a variety of ways to make money. Or, obviously, sell your game and just make just enough. I mean, how many of you would be thrilled to make just enough to pay your bills with your Steam sales? That's totally possible with a mediocre game. It's totally possible, but most people don't know how to sell a mediocre game. They don't know how to launch a mediocre game. Okay, Space Cow says, can you expand on how to build a brand? Absolutely. So, I can't remember who. I was watching this video. Let's see if I could find it here. But I was watching this video, and this Ruri Ohama, she posted a video called "This is the only video you need to watch to start a YouTube channel." I think that's what it was called. And one of the big messages she said in the video was, to build a YouTube channel, and the same is true with a brand, you need to think, if I had a megaphone and I could talk for 10 seconds to the whole world, what would I say? That's like the first sort of big element of a brand. It's what you stand for. Okay, it doesn't have to be some annoying philosophical thing. It just be something that your brand stands for. So what is Thomas Brush's game development brand? When it comes to my YouTube channel and my online courses and my videos, what's my big theme? My big theme is you can be a full-time game developer before you finish your game. That's what I'm screaming to the world. Why am I screaming this? Because this is something I discovered and I was thrilled about it, because it meant that I didn't have to work 4 years and just hope and pray that your game actually is successful on launch. You can actually get investment. You can actually get a ton of wish lists and basically, well, you could pretty much know that your game is going to be successful on launch and make money. But you can also do a crowdfunding campaign. You can also build a YouTube channel. You can also get a Patreon. You can build an audience that supports you. This is awesome. This is my big message. So that's the first thing with building a brand as a game developer. Or maybe you just want to build a brand on social media. You need to be thinking, what's my big message? Okay, not my big message for my game, that's helpful, but what's my big message for my studio, for my game studio? What is your game studio all about? And it's not solving world hunger, that's not what I'm talking about. It's what's your big message and what are you all about with your games? For me, what is Thomas's studio all about? Well, what's my studio called? Atmos Games. So we make atmospheric story games. That's what we're about. That's all we're about. And in fact, Twisted Tower, the current game we're making, feels like a boomer shooter, but we're slowly moving it over. It's gonna fit right into that mold. It's almost like gravity, bringing it back down to the Thomas Brush brand. It always ends up back on the Thomas Brush brand. If I try and make games that are different than who I am, it just comes right back. And that's what your brand is all about. It's about bringing your products into who you truly are. And you need to be able to articulate that. And so my games are atmospheric story games. So that's what I'm shouting to the world. And by the way, if you're like me and you always dreamt of making an indie game as a full-time job, I have a free webinar below that goes into exactly how to make 6 figures with just a demo. I was just like you for years. I thought I had to make a game in its entirety before getting a paycheck, but there's actually 3 ways to make 6 figures before even finishing your game. I've done this multiple times. So check it out below if you do want to go full-time indie. And thanks for watching.